Good morning everyone, and welcome to another week of Wildfire Kids Church Online. I hope everyone's had a really good week and that everyone's surviving, both kids and especially parents have survived another week of schooling at home and all the challenges that brings. And a big shout out to all the mummies today on Mother's Day. I hope you have an especially blessed day today. I hope you are pampered and very well loved today. Well, as you all know, over the last couple of weeks, we've been learning all about the armour of God and how we can stand firm when we put on the full armour of God, because it protects us against a very real enemy called the devil. Last week, we looked at the sword, which is the Word of God, the Bible, and how it is very much a weapon of attack that we can use to defeat the enemy when he comes against us. And he tries to knock us off balance and he tries to knock us down. Well, we're going to look at another piece of the armour today that God has given us to be able to stand firm and stand strong in him. I've got a little video clip that I want you to watch. This is actually a short clip from a movie you may have seen. And as you watch it, I want you to see if you can guess which piece of armour we're looking at today.
Ow! Do not step on those weird, pointy rocks.
You mean these rocks? Ow! Oh, do not step on these rocks!
Step aside, girls.
Ow!
Okay, smart guy. Now what?
Oh! Good fish, good fish.
Okay, now you can look. I call them shoes.
I love them!
Shoes. They're a pretty cool invention, hey? Especially if you're a soldier. Could you imagine a soldier going into battle in bare feet? That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Well, do you know, as part of the armour that God gives us, we need spiritual shoes. The Bible calls them the shoes of the gospel of peace. Well, most of us have different shoes for different purposes and activities, don't we? I've got some of my favourite shoes here. I've got my cosy boots that I like to wear in the winter time when it's cold, like we've had lots of cold weather lately. I've got my sandals and thongs, haven't worn them for a while, but they're my favourite because I love the summer. I've got some sparkly shoes, love them, haven't really worn them very much lately. My favourite at the moment are definitely my slippers, and these are my favourite because these are my comfy walking shoes. So when I put these on, I get to go out for some exercise and I get to escape the house for a bit, which is particularly good at the moment. I bet you've got some favourite shoes that you like to wear as well. And we need different shoes for different purposes and activities. And mostly shoes are really for protecting our feet, aren't they? To keep us safe so our feet don't get hurt. Have you ever been to the beach on a scorching hot day? Just trying to get across the sand can burn your feet. Or I wonder how many of you have stood on a prickle when you're outside in bare feet. Or even worse, a bull ant. That's happened a few times in our backyard. The boys, and I have done this too, have stood on a bull ant, and you only have to do it once to know you don't want to do that ever again. They really hurt. Well, do you know, in Bible times, soldiers' boots were a really important part of his armour. They were made to protect his feet too, but they weren't only for protecting his feet from getting hurt. Soldiers' boots, they actually had spikes under them. Now, I've got a pair of footy boots here, and some of you have probably got a pair of footy boots, and they've got studs under them, don't they? And they're to stop you from slipping around, particularly when it's wet and muddy. Well, do you know, soldiers' boots in Bible times, they actually had spikes under them, probably even longer than these, but they were for a similar purpose. They were to help the soldier to stand his ground in battle so that he would be ready. And just like we need physical shoes, we need spiritual shoes too, to protect us and to help us to stand firm when attacks come against us. When the Bible talks about the shoes of the gospel of peace, it's talking about the good news of what Jesus has done for us on the cross. Because of what Jesus accomplished on the cross, we can have peace with God. That means we can be forgiven, we can be friends with God, and we can experience the real peace that only God can give. John 14 verse 27 says, and these are the words of Jesus, "Peace I leave with you, my perfect peace I give to you. Not as the world gives do I give to you. Do not let your hearts be troubled, nor let it be afraid. Let my perfect peace calm you in every circumstance and give you courage and strength for every challenge." And you know, that peace that only God can give, it helps protect us spiritually. It helps us to stand strong, especially when we're experiencing hard times. Do you know, everyone's going through a pretty challenging time right now. Not being able to have the freedom that we want to do all the things we normally do. And we have many challenges that go along with that too. You might be finding that doing schooling is really challenging, and I'm sure everyone's really missing friends at the moment and all the normal activities that we would do. Do you know, it's only natural to feel worried and stressed by the pressures that we're under. And mums and dads are certainly under a lot of pressure at the moment as well. But you know, God is right there with us, whispering to us, it's okay, I've got you in this, you're going to be okay. And the kind of peace that God gives us, it's not dependent on our circumstances and whether they're good or bad. It's dependent on who God is and His promise to always be with us, to stand with us in the struggles that we face. But you know, the thing about shoes is they're made for going places, aren't they? They're not really made for sitting in our wardrobe collecting dust, although I do have a few that tend to do that. And you know, the thing about the good news of the gospel of peace is that it's not for keeping to ourselves. It's for going and sharing with others so that they too can know friendship with God and this peace and hope that we can experience from knowing Him. So we can put our spiritual shoes on every day by spending time with God. We need to dig into the Word, the Bible, because it reminds us of who God is and the many promises that He has given us. And we can talk to Him in prayer. Do you know, we can talk to God so openly and honestly about the things that concern us and the things that weigh us down. There's another verse in the Bible, a beautiful verse in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. And it says, you might have heard this one before, "Don't fret or worry. Instead of worrying, pray. Let petitions and praises shape your worries into prayers, letting God know your concerns. And before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness, everything coming together for good, will come and settle you down." It's wonderful what happens when Christ displaces worry at the center of your life. That's God's perfect peace. And we can put on our spiritual shoes by telling others about the good news of what Jesus has done for us and how very much He loves each and every one of us. Well, that's all I've got for this week. And don't forget, we have another Zoom call at 11 o'clock, and this has been our chance to still meet together in our small group time so that we can catch up with everyone, see how they're doing. We play a game and then we have some discussion questions, and it's just great to be able to connect with the children in this way. So jump on at 11 o'clock and I'll see you then. Bye everyone.
You would think that sharing good news would be really easy, but there's a spiritual battle taking place between God and the devil over the hearts of each person on earth. This is a story from Kids Spring Ministries about how God is fighting for people to know who He is and how much He loves them.
You would think that sharing good news would be really easy, but there's a spiritual battle taking place between God and the devil over the hearts of each person on earth. God is fighting for people to know who He is and how much He loves them. But the devil, his enemy, is evil and will do anything to keep people from hearing the good news about God's love. So God gave us a piece of His armor called the Good News Boots. They give us the courage to go and tell the good news, just like Jesus taught his disciples to do. 3 days after Jesus died, God brought him back to life. Jesus appeared to his disciples on a mountainside near Galilee, and when they saw him, they worshiped him and thanked God for his love. Jesus had an important message he wanted them to understand. Jesus said, "Go and make followers of all the people in the world. Teach them to obey everything I have told you to do, and you can be sure that I will be with you always." The disciples knew that sharing the good news of God's love might be hard, but they did what Jesus asked them to do. When we decide to follow Jesus, we should tell the people around us the good news about him. It can be easy to make excuses like, "People might make fun of me," "I don't know what to say," or "It's too hard." But with the good news boots, God gives us the right words to say and helps us to not be afraid. Jesus' promise to the disciples is true for us too. He will always be with us. When we wear the good news boots, telling other people about God's love has the power to change their lives forever. We can put on the good news boots.